All right, welcome back, security folks. This is what I think episode 6 or 7. I think 6 or 7 because we skipped 1 week. Just got back from my birthday last week, so now I am 28 years old with these alternatives. So I won't ever complain. But with that being said, let me check to make sure we're actually live. If you have any issues with StreamYard? Let's see. Join. Let the LCC. All right. We are actually live, thank God. Okay, this is actually working. Perfect. Again, if you guys have questions or concerns at all, just drop a questions at the chat. Don't be afraid. Put this down here. So for today's session specifically, I know my guest host Nigel is traveling all over the world because he's big and fancy like that, but it's okay. We all still love him. So it'll just be me for today. So specifically for today, I wanted to cover Python in more detail and how does it actually look like. So what that'll look like is I'll cover some Python use cases specifically on what to actually expect, and then I'll be covering the practice of Python and then going over an example of which environment can actually look like. And any questions about that at all for like the type of roles you might want to get for Python, excuse me, just let me know. I'm here to help. And then the last session will be Q&A, but it's always basically Q&A throughout the thing, but I'll be specifically any questions that you may have for it that I may want to answer for you guys. So again, don't be afraid. If you have a question at all, anything, just drop us at the chat. I'm here to basically support you guys however again. The more interactive this is, the better off it'll be. Let me pull up my notes so I don't ramble on without any context. Let's see, which one is this? All right, perfect. All right. So most people here should know what Python is. If you don't, that is perfectly fine. Python is a programming language often used by data scientists, IT professionals, machine learning engineers, right? It's very good at, lack of a better term, ease of use. And the standpoint is it is very syntax light. It kind of follows a process of natural language, meaning it's very similar to human language for how we speak, but pretty easy to write and read. For lack of a better term, it's not as heavy as, let's say, Java or C++. From the object-oriented programming language, and you don't have to compile it to basically run it, which saves a lot of time and memory space for your computer. It's pretty easy to get stood up and run. You can basically run a Python script from like a notepad, from like a notepad.py extension. So you can use Notepad or Notepad++ to basically be able to actually run a Python script, as long as you have the Python language installed on your backend for your computer. So for Python, right? Again, it's very use heavy in data science. If you be data scientist or data engineer, it's used really heavily with that. If you want to do machine learning or artificial intelligence, it's used pretty heavy for that as well. And there's a lot of security use cases you can use it for as well. So really, really, really cool programming language. For those of you that know me, I do not like programming. I don't lie about it. I think it's kind of awful sometimes. Especially being a software engineer, it's not my cup of tea. I used to be one, but I left that life a long time ago because programming business applications in Java is god awful. And so I don't want to do it anymore, so I stopped. Went back to cyber. But I learned a lot of really cool things because of it, which I'm glad. So I'm going to go over some of the use cases for Python specifically. And then there'll be a couple ones that I'll try to hammer home a little bit more. you'll see like a theme throughout a lot of my webinars that I do. There's certain areas that I normally like to hammer home that I think are really important for your career in cybersecurity. I'll pause for a second. Does anybody have any questions for me at all? Let me check the chat. I don't see anything at all. So no questions. Again, if you guys have questions either from YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitter, where I'm streaming this at, definitely just drop them. This is a safe space, so don't be afraid to voice your opinions or share questions that you may have. Actually, let me ask a question towards the group. I'll give this 45 seconds of awkward silence you may have, but that's fine. Oh, never mind. We do have a question. What is your opinion that cybersecurity is not entry level? What is your? Let me see here. Harun, my apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name. Says, where do you stand on the opinion that cyber is not entry level? What do you mean by that specifically? What do you consider entry level? It would be my next question towards you. And then my question towards the group would be, who here has used Python before? Drop your comments inside of the chat. And to piggyback off that, who here has used Python before but enjoyed it though? Because everyone has their own favorite programming language, and I will have 30 seconds of very awkward silence if need be. I'm okay with that. So yeah, who here has used Python, and who here has actually enjoyed it? I'm glad to see Matthew is here. Matthew's awesome, guys. We'll definitely connect with him. I met him in Austin at IntelliCon back in February. Really, really nice young man. So he's definitely going places. And he's used it mostly for coding classes. They didn't teach, they didn't really cover Python too much when I was, I hate to say it, but when I was your age, Matthew. I feel like an old man now. They mostly covered Java and C#. I use it for a Google certificate for Coursera. I know Google programs really cover it pretty heavily. I do like the readability of Python better. Yeah. Python's easy for me to learn, or air quotes easy, right? Because I did Java, so I went from like something being really, really syntax heavy for something being incredibly light. So it was definitely an easier pivot from that standpoint. And no problem, Matt. You're doing an awesome job. So always have to shout you out. And then Harun puts, it's better to have IT or software engineering knowledge before you do cybersecurity, so you know where the vulnerabilities and attack points are. Isn't it hard to get a job in cyber with no prior experience? No experience for what though? No direct IT or cybersecurity experience, or is it harder? Yeah, I would say it's harder, but it's still definitely possible, right? If you know how to translate your skills to whatever job role you're trying to apply for, right? So honestly, just depends from that regard. So I've seen people. Let's see. Matthew puts, You can technically get into cyber from any kind of knowledge, especially software engineering, because it translates into over to application security if you decide to. Yeah, so there's a lot of different sectors you can get in if you have previous experience. But this depends. All right. That's something we talk about inside of my program as well, for how to actually translate that experience to land a role if you need to. But I'm now going to cover some different use cases you can use inside of Python. So there's around there's 8 main ones you can use it for. Penetration testing, detection engineering, Python for digital forensics and incident response, or DFIR, Python for application security, Python for malware analysis, Python for network security, and then Python for data science, machine learning, and threat hunting, then Python for cryptography. So the 3 main areas I'm going to work on basically focus on for this call is Python for detection engineering, Python for DFIR, and then Python for data scientists. And I'll go over some of the use cases you can basically use it for. So let me see. So we'll start Python for detection engineering, because that's one of my main roles that I do. All right. So if you want to be a detection engineer, you don't have to know Python. All right. Because not every platform uses it. But it definitely comes in useful and handy if you're trying to build custom APIs or SDKs. If you need to pull or ingest logs or to filter through data, that is one option you can use it for. There's also something called Sigma, or detection as code, that you're able to use it for. That's an open source platform that is able to basically translate from any single language that you want to use, right? So if your firm uses Splunk SPO and you want to build detection rules in KQO, or you want to build detection rules inside of like CrowdStrike Falcon, if you use Sigma rules, you're able to basically convert them over using their platform or their integrations. So it's really, really cool. There is one main platform that does use Python as its main detection logic, which it goes back to detection as code, and it's called Panther. So let me actually show you what the guys is. Steve, yes, it will. Once this is done recording, if you go towards my events tab in my profile, the recording will be uploaded there automatically. Either that or our YouTube channel. So let me share my screen. So this is Panther. Panther is a cloud-native SIEM platform. Again, Panther uses Python as its main detection language. So instead of SPO, for example, for Splunk, Panther uses Python to build out its detections. Not every firm uses Panther. It's still a pretty small player. Let's keep that in mind. But it's a pretty cool platform to use. So again, similar use cases as to most other SIEM platforms for advanced stuff, but they use, again, Python as their main language driver. And they have their own libraries and stuff like that they use as well. So you can either use Python or YAML. Again, I think YAML's open source too. Yeah, YAML is Sigma. They're going to use interchangeable. There's YAML, Sigma, and then ER. So really cool. So let's go towards platform to integrate it with. Splunk one of them. All right. This is free, by the way, or I guess their page is free. I don't know if they're trying to ensure or not, but you can go to the site and you'll have it. Keep in mind, because this is a newer platform, there will be holes that they have to fix for it because they are still new. So keep that in mind. All right. Then they have resources that you can take a look at as well. So use at your own regard for this. A Panther is, I think they're the only main SIM platform. They're still kind of small, but they're only mainstream SIM platform that I know that uses Panther, not use Panther, using Python as their default language. That's pretty cool, right? So if you know Python pretty well, using them is pretty cool to do. Another question towards the chat. Who here has used Panther before? Drop your question or drop your answers at the chat. Again, don't be shy. Now give 30 seconds. I'm guessing that silence means nope, no one never used it before. Yeah, it's a lot smaller platform, so most Fortune 100 firms don't use it, or Fortune 200 at all. So unless you work for like a smaller firm, they probably won't use it. But it's good to know that it's out there, though. And then Joseph, remember Joseph, the marketing team built that site out, so keep that in mind. So they're gonna make everything look good. That's their job. But that is Panther. That is Python for detection engineering. Again, you can use Python to build out either API call specifically. You can use it to build scripts out with detection engineering, or you can use it to build out detection logic if you have the right platform for it. Other tools or other libraries that Python has, which you can basically, a library inside of any programming language is someone else's code that you can reuse to make your life easier. Because reinventing the wheel is very lame. So we're all very lazy. So making sure we can reuse stuff as need be that actually works is super important. So some libraries might use for detection engineering might be PySigma, Sigma, or API calls. If you're not sure what each one of those does, you can directly Google it and I'll give you an answer. Next up is Python for digital forensics and incident response. So this is near and dear towards my heart. This is SOAR, basically. And two of the SOAR platforms in the market are Splunk Phantom and XSOAR. All right. Those are two main platforms on the market that you're able to basically use. There's other ones like Tines as well. I think IBM got rid of their one. I think Palo Alto bought it out. But I know that is two main SOAR platforms in the market. SOAR platform stands for Security Orchestration Automation Response, which I'll probably make that my next workshop, either that or a LinkedIn thing. But SOAR platforms are used in much larger firms for incident response in digital forensics. It allows you to kind of automate and streamline a lot of the incident response process to make sure your analysts don't get burnt out by doing redundant tasks over and over again. So with that, again, XSOAR, Palo Alto, Splunk Phantom is obviously Splunk. And these are two of the most common SOAR platforms to use for incident response and digital forensics. And so we'll take a look at XSOAR. I think that is still the market leader. that uses Python. So we'll do that. Where is... No, share my stuff. Question. Mrs. Revelle says, do you use PowerShell at all? I know that can be used to automate tasks as well. I know a little bit of PowerShell for just installation purposes of different platforms like Splunk, for example, or for backend window processes. So I know PowerShell from the standpoint of detection engineering and threat hunting to actually detect the malicious shell scripts. Then I know a little bit of it for certain installation processes. So technically, yes, I do. If your environment is super Windows heavy, it can come in handy for some certain use cases as well. It's not bad to learn, but I would say, pick one language, learn it, get good at it, then pivot from there. Don't try to eat an entire elephant at one time. Let's see if it's the right thing for XOR products. Let me see. All right, let me share my screen so you guys can see. All right, this is XOR. This is from Palo Alto. They have a podcast apparently for this. I didn't realize that. Again, you can directly just Google this. That is Justin, my instructor. Here's an example for Cortex XOR, right? And then here's some overview what it looks like, right? With use cases, here's an example what it actually looks like for the platform. You see some examples of that's what the platform can actually do, right? So you can do a free workshop. We're hosting pretty often. Browse events. You can browse by product left to XOR and see if they have one. Oh, they don't. That sucks. Cortex XDR, they might have one. They have one for hands-on investigation. All right, just look at the time zone, right? Some of this is not in US time. All right, so you want to do a threat hunting one in May, you have the option to do it basically. And so there's a lot of really cool things you can do with XOR as well, or Cortex XDR. So it's up to you. I think Expanse is their edge defense. I could be wrong though. Or I think attack surface management, maybe. So this depends. Yeah. Let me see. This is kind of a side note as well. But they just came out with their new whatchamacallit, there's new SIM platform. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? There we go. So this is a brand new SIM platform. And again, whenever you go on a company's page about a product, remember they want to say their things, the greatest things since sliced bread. So keep whatever features, whatever promises they have with a grain of salt. But again, they're trying to sell their product, right? But keep that in mind. But they have a new SIM platform called XCM. So this is Palo Alto. Let me stop sharing. See if you have any questions. Jose puts, which SOAR do you prefer to use, Cortex XOR or Splunk Phantom? That is a good question. Depends what use cases, Jose. I'm a very big fan of how Splunk runs their security teams. I have a lot of friends that work there. So I've always liked Splunk a little bit more. XOR is very good for threat intelligence stuff. I know since Cisco just bought out Splunk, they've been trying to really up their game inside of that. 'Cause I know Palo Alto has their Unit 42 practice, which is their private consulting practice for threat intelligence and threat hunting. So they have a lot of really good feeds and data points they can pull from for their clients. So it just depends on what you're trying to do, but they're both really good platforms. Let me see if there's any other questions. I don't think so. Let's see. All right, so the last main use case that we covered before the demo would basically be Python for data science, machine learning, and threat hunting. So you can use Python for all three of those areas. Again, data science, machine learning, threat hunting. I'm covered from a threat hunting perspective because that's what I do, right? So there's something called the machine learning toolkit for one of the areas of use. That is proprietary towards Splunk. You can use it for anomaly detection if you want to. That is an option that you can do. So let me share my screen again. I feel like an old man every time I do this. Right page? Yes. Again, you can Google this directly and it'll take you here. Machine Learning Toolkit, it'll believe for most of the features are free. It's a big app, so you'll need a decent sized server to run it, or your system to run pretty slow. But you can basically, from the security standpoint, do anomaly detection. So basically run through large data sets really quickly, or run through your environment really quickly to find anomalies for your environment so you can build up detection rules inside of it, right? So really, really, really cool stuff, right? And then you can tweak what data ingests to help the algorithm out and make it better. So remember this case study, you can definitely do that. So let me send it towards you from the case study so you can kind of read to get a better sense as to what's going on for it. Again, this is very, very cool. This came out, I would say, like maybe 5 years ago, if I'm correct. So there's a lot of really cool stuff you kind of get to do with it outside of the security, but I'm focusing on security because I'm a security person. This is a security workshop. So if you want to download it, you have the ability to download it. You can also go to Splunk base and I'll take you there. So if you want to go to Splunk base and take a look at it, you could. And flow inside your environment and download it. So a lot of really cool stuff for it. Another thing would be as well, it's going to be Juniper notebooks. This is basically a third-party app that allows you to basically create visualizations and more of a visual outlay when you're programming, right? So another really popular language is for a lot of data visualization stuff, a lot of data science and stuff. So Python's really popular for it. Math, I use this a lot in college, actually. I use this for, I think Python and C#. So a lot of really cool things you can do with Jupyter Notebooks as well. And I think it's free to install too. It's used decently often in threat hunting because you can create visualizations off of it. So again, one point of note I want to kind of stress towards you guys: don't be so much focused on the specific tool, more analyzing the processes that you're actually doing, so you can use it for any single platform, any single area. That'd probably be the best use of your time and resources to make sure you guys understand that. I'll pause here for a second. Now I covered a lot of different topics today so far. We're around the halfway mark. there's like another 15 minutes for the Python thing I want to show you, or maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And then we'll go into the Q&A. You guys get to ask me any career questions that you may have. But I'll pause here for a second. Any questions about what I've showed you guys so far? And again, I'll have awkward silence for another 45 seconds. Let's see. If you have a question about it, just drop it inside of the chat. Let me put this down. You see it. All right. No questions. All right, and let's go towards, I do have a question from Jose. Jose says, if you can use Splunk, is every this tool easier to use? In my personal opinion, yes. I think Splunk is probably the hardest SIEM and log management platform to use, just for the sake of Splunk in of itself. It's not a SIEM platform. Splunk Enterprise Security is a SIEM platform, right? So if you know how to use Splunk, Splunk covers dozens of different use cases. Dozens. Security, DevOps, development, operations, IT infrastructure, observability, finance, sales, BI information, right? So there's a lot of different use cases you can use Splunk for. A lot of firms use Splunk, but they don't use it for security. All right. So it's a lot of different use cases you can use Splunk for. So if you know how Splunk works inside and out, it forces you to learn a lot of different areas outside of just cyber. A lot of foundational things you'll have to learn to be able to use a platform, right? So if you know how to use Splunk, my personal opinion, you can learn any other major platform, which is one of the reasons why we teach it for my program, among other platforms like AWS and Azure. But one of the benefits of the platform. So it is, I'll say the learning curve for Splunk is a little bit harder to actually get really good at it. But if you can do that, then you're in pretty good shape. But the last thing we'll cover from a technical perspective will be what an IDE is. So what an IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. I'm not gonna lie, I still get anxiety by opening up an IDE. I have very bad memories of programming. But if you want like the full robustness of using any programming language at all, IDE is the way to go, right? If you're just creating basic scripts, you need Juniper Notebook or like a notepad. So really cool stuff. There's a lot that goes inside of it from an architecture standpoint as well. I won't dive too deeply inside of it. I don't want to freak you guys out, but there's a couple IDEs you can use for your environment. So for Python, you can use PyCharm, which is designed specifically for Python, made by JetBrains. They make IDEs for everything. IntelliJ for Java, PyCharm for Python. Node++. Again, you can use that just for Python. They create some basic scripts. It's also Juniper Notebooks, which we covered as well. Then there's Visual Code, which is made by Microsoft, which you can use for Python as well. How to actually install it will depend on your own systems and requirements. So that will be dependent. So I'll show you PyCharm. That's what I use. So again, this is PyCharm. So you can get PyCharm. Everyone has AI now for some odd reason. And you can use PyCharm basically, make your life easier or make it more complex depending on who you are. All right. So there's a lot of really cool features like debugging you can use, but you won't get in Notepad++. All right. You can create classes. You can create other features. You can create other dependencies, other files encapsulated inside your environment. Right. Other different projects. You can use other different languages if you're doing web development, like the Django. You can add Docker files towards it. Right. So this is if you want to IDEs are mainly to use more for like a software engineering perspective because you have a lot of dependencies and other things you're pulling from different projects. If you're just using Python just for yourself and you just use it for very basic purposes, you don't have to have an IDE. Think of an IDE like Emotion Star, Chef Kitchen, all the fancy features, all the fancy grills, stoves, onions, choppers, knives, right? If you're a noob towards it, it can be kind of overwhelming, all right? Which is why you just want like a cast iron pan and like a burner. So I use an IDE because I was comfortable with it when I was a software engineer. It's a lot to take on, so keep that in mind. So if you feel freaked out about it, don't worry. I did. I still do. But it gives you a lot of extra features and functionality that you won't get from like a Notepad++, for example. So it will just depend on what you want to do. But if you want the option of it, it is here. And there is a free version as well for getting PyCharm. Let's see. Solutions. Yeah, type in free version, and I'll probably give it towards you. Yeah. Yeah, so this is PyCharm. It's made by IntelliJ. It's made for Python. It's also Visual Code, which is Visual Studio Code, technically. It's made by Microsoft. Again, it's made by Microsoft, so understand that. This is an option you can use as well. So it just depends on what you want to do. But here's what the platform actually looks like. Make it larger. So again, there's a lot of functionality you get to use. These are just different dependencies that you see for my Python project. In create a project, you just basically can just click here, hit project, and create a new one. Or you can go here and create a new project. And create a new project which will basically encapsulate all your code, all your dependencies. If you have an external web server, so this will be inside your project as well. But for my case, I'm just doing a basic Python script. Then these are the external libraries where I'm pulling my dependencies from, basically. So if I want to call something from a different library to pull that code repository, basically to use for its functionality, this is basically pulling it, and then I'll declare it inside of here. You say packages, right? So again, for a lot of stuff, we wouldn't need this for our specific use cases for security, right? This is really overkill from a security standpoint. It's nice to have, but 9 times out of 10, we won't need it unless we're building like a web application or like a really robust app or service. And in security, you're normally not doing that unless you're like a security developer building out a security platform. So if you are like a developer for Panther, building out the back end of the platform, you might need something like this, for example. If you're building out protection as code, half the stuff you probably won't ever use. But you still have it in case you need it. So for example, this is my program. It's very basic. So what I'm doing is I'm printing out my name, right? This is a comment to do, a random to do, right? Says not Python code. What is my name? It's gonna print out my age. I'm gonna print this out. This is a while loop basically. So while this number is less than, or yeah, while the number is less than or greater or less than or equal to 5, it's gonna run through this loop. And then this is my for loop. So for every item inside of this list, it's gonna print this out. It's gonna iterate through. It's pretty basic stuff. All right. So I want to run my main one. And prompt me for my name. I'll put in my name. Then I'll print this out, right? Again, this is very basic, all right? But use your imagination. What you do from a security standpoint. So if you wanted to basically loop through different, keep turning it off. One sec. My apologies about that. But as I was saying, imagine this instead of just random numbers, these are IP addresses or malicious ones. And you kind of want to iterate through it and check it against some type of condition to see if it gets flagged or not. You can do that. You can input information to check and then enter it in here, right? If you want to. So you want to check to say, hey, input the malicious IP address and check against our malicious list. You can do it that way and print out the values, right? So there's a lot of different ways you can basically build this out. I created a very basic program for this demo. If I want to do another one, right, I could print, right, autofill, print Tom Brady or something like that. I could. If I want to run it, I'll just switch over, use test one. Now it's going to run. Oh, snap. Did I do? The hell? Snap. Hold on. I think I know it wrong. It's wonderful. Specified main. Edit. Save. Of course. I have another file that it is basically running to this, which is wonderful. So that's why. Anyway, so you can have multiple ones. You have multiple basically Python scripts that you could run, basically, which is what it's doing now. I'm pretty sure I deleted this, so I don't know why it's still printing this out. Because this isn't this script at all. So I think I have a different project. Let me see. Man, that's my only one, right? Anyways, I'll figure it out after the session. Yeah, there's a lot of cool things you kind of get to do with this as well. So let me see. Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So a lot of cool things you get to do with Python. Again, it's very readable, right? It's very straightforward for how it's actually function, right? Which is why I like it a lot. So if you want to learn Python, we teach outside the program as well. And there's some other good resources to get you started too. So it just depends on what you want to do. But that was just a quick demo of it. Again, I'll probably do a more advanced one in the future, but I want to kind of quickly go over that. Does anybody have any questions? I'll open up towards the floor for questions for the Q&A session. We're almost at 15 minutes in the dot. Yeah, left. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know where that's coming from. Why it says I like tacos. We are having a taco. Yes. Please drop your questions inside the chat. So for this, it can be career section. You guys have any career questions at all for me about the program, what we do, who we are? Question about your career. Again, I'm here to help. So drop your questions inside the chats. Or you can always directly DM me after this session as well. I'm more than happy to talk towards you privately as well. Any questions at all? Jose puts, is basic Python scripting enough for SOAR playbook scripting? Depends what your definition of basic is. If you have a basic to mid-level understanding of Python and how to actually write it, you should be able to create playbooks. But yeah, most major platforms for SOAR use Python. I know Tyne uses JSON, but I know XOR and SongFactor use Python for the libraries and then for their SOAR playbooks. It's a good question, Jose. Mrs. Ravel. Considering these use cases of Python, is there a specific course you recommend since it can be used for cyber software, etc.? Without our stuff, without tooting my horn, yeah, there is one. To understand Python at its core, which I recommend towards people, before they try to focus on security specifically, go to Code Academy and do their course. That's what I normally do for refreshers as well, which is what I'm doing right now. I don't always use using Python for my job. They have a really, really good Python course. I like Code Academy for anything programming language wise. That's how I learned Java. That's how I learned C#. So I would definitely check them out on Mrs. Ravel. They have a lot of good stuff that you should be able to use specifically for Python. And do Python 3. I think for like a monthly thing. I think for the year, like every other month, they do like a 50% off their entire platform for a year. So it ends up being like, I think $150, $200 for the entire year. It's pretty cheap. So Steve puts, how does a prospect break the Cybersecurity Cat 22? You can't get hired without real world experience. However, no one will hire you without real world experience. My thing is to always create your own experience, right? If you want something, then you go after it, right? So if someone doesn't open the door for you, you break in the wall and create an opening for yourself. So I'm my thought process. So for me, no one gave me a shot, so I'd start teaching people what I knew. And then from there, I got noticed. And from there, I got opportunities, right? So there's a lot of different ways you can basically get experience. So initially, right, like any business, you can give out samples. Think of yourself as like a cookie store, Kyla cookies. I have a very big sweet tooth. So think of yourself with like Crumble, for example. They gave out free samples, right? They didn't charge for that, right? They gave out free samples so people knew what their product was and knew what they could do. They did it for like months and years on end, right? And then eventually they charged. Same concept for you, right? You can do freelance work, right? And after a while, once you have lots of testimonials, you can then start to charge local businesses, right? And then from there, you can create a portfolio and then gain experience that way. That's real world experience, right? And then if you know how to market and brand yourself properly from that standpoint, you can then showcase that to the larger corporations to get a higher paying job if that's your goal. Or if that's your own business, right? So it's up to you in that regard. Yeah, but there's a lot of ways you can get over that experience barrier, for lack of a better term, if you know what you're doing. What other questions do you guys have for me? Don't be shy. I am here to help. Again, this is your guys' time. You guys have like 9 minutes left. And you guys have questions, don't be shy. I'm here to help. Of course, Steve, no problem. A couple quick notes then, as you guys type in your questions. If you want to get more insights from me at all, just follow me. So just follow my LinkedIn profile or follow our business page. If you have any direct questions at all that you want to put in the chat, directly DM me, right? If you like this type of style webinar or class, how you want to call it, or ask me anything session, you want more information about what we do in more detail, you can directly DM me as well, and I can go over what we have to offer as well inside of our programs and offerings. But again, we specialize in doing the threat side of things, so threat hunting, threat intelligence, detection engineering, SOAR engineering, cyber consultant, being a sales engineer, right, SIM engineer, consultant. I think I already said that. Probably did. Anyways, those are the areas that we try to focus on for our student base, right? If you guys want roles like that, want to try to get promoted, become a manager, become a senior engineer, any of that nature, that's what we help our students basically get roles in, basically, and get leveled up. And I do free workshops like this towards the public to help you guys out so you guys understand like how to get started and what to do. Because there's a lot of nonsense out there, and so I'm trying to give you the most honest opinion that I have from my personal perspective. Because I've been in the industry for almost 7 years, and I've worked for over like 12 companies because I was a consultant. So I went to a different firm every 4 months, basically. So I've seen a lot of stuff, for lack of a better term. Sean Kirkland puts, I was going to ask what the schedule for these is. I got notification LinkedIn and I hopped in. So these are held every other Monday. So we hold these twice a month, Sean. Hold them at 7 p.m. Central Time every other Monday. So every 2 weeks, basically. We've been pretty consistent with that for the entire year. So I like the cadence. Eventually, I'll probably do like once a week. But for now, we'll do every other month. Mrs. Ravel, why do you want to do penetration testing specifically, if you don't mind me asking? And then from the perspective of threat hunting is much more proactive. Threat hunting, think of it like you're proactively filling the gaps inside your security organization that your normal engineers, analysts can't do because they're too busy or they're understaffed or overworked. So you have to proactively go out in the environment and actually plug in those holes as need be to keep your environment safe, right? So much more proactive brand of cybersecurity compared to some other components of it, which, for example, like incident response. For incident response, you have to wait until something basically happens, right? So you have to wait until a fire happens or something breaks down, and then you have to basically go and fix it, right? For threat hunting, your job is to actually proactively go out and prevent threats from happening. Let me know if that makes sense. It's a really, really cool process, right? A lot of it is research based. So it's a really, really cool space to be in. Most threat hunting roles, you have a decent amount of flexibility. You're on my tier 3. It's just you have a lot of autonomy, so they expect a lot out of you. And we teach in the program, we teach like different methods for threat hunting, how to perform a threat hunt, proper mindset for it, how to write threat reports, things of that nature. What other questions you guys have for me? These are really good questions. Awesome. Any other questions you guys potentially have for me? How do you threat hunt using the sim? Let me see. Jose puts, how do you threat hunt using the sim? I should put this. It depends, honestly, right? You don't have. No, you don't have to use a you don't have to use a sim to do threat hunting. I would highly suggest it, but you don't have to, right? Um, so for threat hunting, right? If you're gonna use a sim platform, right, you'll normally want to create a baseline as to what's being ingested inside your environment, what log sources you have, and then from there basically pivot to get a better sense as to what you're trying to look. So you have to create hypothesis for the type of malicious action or potentially malicious issue you're trying to take a look at. And then you're going to basically either use a SIM platform, you can use an XDR platform, right? You can manually look up the logs if they don't have a SIM platform installed. So it just depends. Yeah, it's a loaded question because a lot of different methods you can use to make sure that happens. So it just depends on what type of method you actually want to do. What's your end goals? What your firm looks like. Any other questions at all? Any last minute questions? Doesn't seem like there's any more questions at all. If not, then I'll end the call here. Again, if you guys have any questions at all, directly DM me. You guys have my information. Oh, one last question from Jose. So your last question we'll take. What do you think about getting into the GRC field? I think it's a really good space to be in. For cybersecurity, I have a lot of friends that do it. My business partner Markeisha does it. Shout out to Markeisha. That's into the GRC space. So it's definitely really interesting to be in. If you like the policy and compliance side of things, not everyone wants to be technical. We're sure there's a technical component towards GRC, then it's not a bad place to get started in. So definitely, it's really cool to be in it if that's your end goal, Jose, or a starting point. This depends on you. All right, that was the last question. I'll end it for now. If there's any other questions or concerns, directly DM me. Our next session will probably be a LinkedIn one or one more technical one, and we'll do a couple more career ones as well, so you guys know how to actually tailor your LinkedIn profiles in order to try to land roles and build connections. Otherwise, that is it for me. You guys have any more questions at all? Feel free to ping me. Otherwise, I'll see you guys later.